Okay, we've been practicing splitting arrays. We're going to practice now splitting larger arrays. So our numbers are just getting a lot bigger. So now we're trying to find out how many squares are in a 7 by 14 array. And when I see 7 times 14, I'm thinking 7 rows with 14 squares in them. So let's check for our 7 rows. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I have 7 rows. And we know 7 rows of 14, so there should be 14 squares in every row, or 14 columns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So I have 14 columns, or 14 squares in every row. So I'm trying to solve 7 rows of 14 to find out how many squares are in my entire array. I don't know 7 times 14 off the top of my head, so when I'm splitting it, I'm making it a little bit smaller and making it easier to work with. I like to count by tens. Tens are really easy for me. So instead of 14 columns, I'm going to break my 14 apart into 10 columns first. So I still will keep my 7 rows, but I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm going to make 10 in each row instead of 14. So I still have my 7 rows of, but now there's 10 in every row. So it's a lot easier for me to count 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. So I just found out that there are 70 squares in this entire section of my array. So it's a lot faster than counting one by one. I still have 7 rows left with 4 in each row. But 7s aren't easy for me to count by, and 4s aren't too easy for me to count by yet either. So I'm going to break down my 7 times 4 a little bit smaller. I like 2s. So instead of keeping my 4 in each row, I'm going to make it 2 in each row. So I split my array again. In this section of my array, I still have my 7 rows, but now there's 2 in each row. So I could count by 2s, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, or I could just do 7 plus 7, and I know that's 14 squares in this section of my array. The last section of my array is the exact same right here. There's still 7 rows, and I have 2 in each row. So there's 14 squares in that part too. So to find out how many squares I have in all 7 rows and 14 columns, I have to add my 70 plus my 14 squares from that smaller array and the 14 squares from that smaller array. So I know 14 plus 14 gives me 28. So there's 28 squares right here, but I still have to find out these squares here. So now I have my 28 plus my 70 squares gives me 98 squares in my whole array. So now I know 7 rows of 14 equals 98 squares, or 7 times 14 equals 98.